You are in a titanium sphere the size of a small car. Outside, the pressure is 20 atmospheres. That means every square inch of your submersible is being crushed with 294 pounds per square inch of force. Your skull would collapse in 0.3 seconds. You descended past 200 meters 4 minutes ago. That was the moment you left the photic zone, the last place sunlight penetrates. You are now in the Twilight Zone, the Mesopelagic, the place where the rules change. And then you see it. A dragonfish, 20 centimeters long, needle teeth, eyes like beads. And it is the blackest thing you have ever seen. Not metaphorically black, not dark, black. It absorbs 99.956% of visible light. The submersible's 20,000 lumen floods hit its skin and vanish. No reflection, no scatter, just consumption. You thought you understood darkness. You were wrong. Darkness down here has architecture. By the time you reach 200 meters, the laws of surface biology have been rewritten. By 1,000 meters, they've been deleted. By 6,000 meters, what survives shouldn't be called life. It should be called defiance. Let's start with the first impossible thing. The dragonfish sees in red light. Red light does not exist past 5 meters underwater. Water absorbs light based on wavelength. Red, the longest visible wavelength, is absorbed first. By the time you're 10 meters down, red is completely gone. Not dim, gone. The photons have been converted to heat. The dragonfish lives at 1,500 meters. There is no red light. There has never been red light in its entire evolutionary history. And yet, it produces red bioluminescence. And it can see red bioluminescence. Human eyes have 3 types of cone cells: red sensitive, green sensitive, blue sensitive. We see the wavelengths we evolved to see, the wavelengths that exist in our environment. The dragonfish did not evolve red sensitive photoreceptors. It stole them. Dragonfish larvae live near the ocean's surface. They feed on copepods and other zooplankton that have consumed phytoplankton. In those copepods are chlorophyll derivatives, breakdown products of the photosynthetic machinery from the algae they ate. Most fish excrete these compounds as waste. Dragonfish sequester them, transport them to the retina, and repurpose them as light-detecting molecules. It's not direct theft. It's metabolic salvage across 3 trophic levels. The same molecular family plants use to capture sunlight, the dragonfish uses to hunt in a color that doesn't exist. And here's the violation that breaks intuition. The dragonfish does 2 things no other deep-sea predator does. 1. Produces red bioluminescence. 2. Can detect red bioluminescence. Most deep-sea creatures evolved to see blue and green, the wavelengths bioluminescence produces. The dragonfish created a private channel. It hunts using a flashlight its prey cannot see. This is not adaptation. This is innovation. And it is just the beginning. 200 meters, stolen vision. 500 meters, private wavelengths. 1,000 meters, entering the midnight zone. We've seen how they perceive. Now we examine how they disappear. The dragonfish is not the only black thing down here. There are at least 16 species of ultra-black fish. Different families, different evolutionary lineages. But all of them converged on the same solution. Be invisible to bioluminescence. Normal fish skin reflects about 4% of light, enough to create a faint silhouette if a bioluminescent predator passes by. Ultra-black fish skin reflects 0.044% of light. The secret is in the architecture. Their skin contains structures called melanosomes, organelles packed with melanin pigment. But it's not the pigment that makes them black, it's the geometry. The melanosomes are shaped and spaced to create a labyrinth. Light enters. It bounces between pigment structures. Each bounce absorbs a little more energy. The light never escapes. We invented Vantablack in 2014 for stealth technology and telescope baffles. Fish invented it 200 million years ago. And here's the cost. If you are invisible to predators, you are also invisible to mates. Ultra-black fish solve this with bioluminescent patterns, tiny glowing photophores on their bodies. The only parts of them that exist visually are the lights they choose to turn on. They communicate in constellations. The vampire squid lives in one of the most hostile zones in the ocean, the oxygen minimum zone. Between 600 and 1,200 meters, oxygen concentration drops to 3% of surface levels. Humans black out at 10% oxygen. Most fish suffocate at 15%. The vampire squid thrives at 3%. And if you cut one open, it bleeds blue. Surface organisms, including humans, use hemoglobin to transport oxygen. Hemoglobin is iron-based. It turns red when oxygenated. The vampire squid uses hemocyanin, copper-based. It turns blue when oxygenated. In warm, oxygen-rich water, hemoglobin is more efficient. In cold, low-oxygen water, copper wins. Hemocyanin binds oxygen up to 3 times more efficiently than hemoglobin in the vampire squid's environment. The cost? Hemocyanin requires more energy to produce. The vampire squid's metabolism is slow, patient. It drifts motionless for hours, waiting for prey to stumble into its arms. It does not hunt. It intercepts. Every night, the largest migration on Earth occurs. You cannot see it from the surface, but instruments can. Lanternfish, billions of them, rising from the safety of the midnight zone to feed in surface waters. Every single night, they ascend 1,000 meters. Every single morning, they descend 1,000 meters. For a human-sized organism, this would be equivalent to climbing and descending Mount Everest daily for your entire life. The energy cost is brutal. Vertical migration consumes 20 to 40% of the lanternfish's daily caloric intake, just for the commute. So why do it? Surface equals food. Depth equals survival. At the surface during daylight, visual predators, tuna, marlin, seabirds, can see you. Predation risk extreme. At 1,000 meters, there is no sunlight. Visual hunting is nearly impossible. Predation risk minimal. If this equation tilts even slightly, if food decreases, or migration cost increases, or predators adapt, the species collapses. Lanternfish are proof the equation balances. We've documented the tools. Now we examine the cost. This is the abyssal zone, 4,000 to 6,000 meters deep. The average depth of the world's oceans is 3,688 meters. This is where most of the ocean exists, and it is almost completely empty. Deep-sea organisms did not choose the abyss. They were pushed here. 252 million years ago, the Permian extinction, the worst extinction event in Earth's history, killed 96% of all marine species. Shallow seas became toxic. Volcanic gases turned oceans acidic. Oxygen vanished. The survivors were refugees. They fled to the deep, where pressure was immense, where food was scarce, where light did not exist. And they stayed. For 250 million years, they evolved in isolation, adapting to conditions so extreme they might as well be on another planet. In the deepest trenches, the Hadal Zone, evolution runs separate experiments. Trenches are isolated from each other. A fish in the Mariana Trench cannot reach the Tonga Trench. They are separated by abyssal plains as impassable as deserts. Each trench is its own evolutionary petri dish. The abyss is a filter. Every 1,000 meters removes 90% of life. What reaches the bottom is not the strongest. It is the most desperate. The Greenland shark lives longer than any vertebrate on Earth. Radiocarbon dating of eye lens proteins, which form at birth and are never replaced, reveals ages of at least 272 years, with some individuals estimated at 400+ years. But even the conservative estimates make them the longest-lived vertebrates on Earth. And the upper estimates? If accurate, some sharks alive today were born before the scientific revolution. Their heart rate is approximately 6 beats per minute. They grow 1 centimeter per year. They do not reach sexual maturity until approximately age 150. The water they live in is just above freezing, minus 1.5 degrees Celsius. At that temperature, biochemical reactions slow exponentially. Metabolic rate is temperature dependent. Cold water equals slow metabolism. Slow metabolism equals slow growth. Slow growth equals delayed maturity. Delayed maturity equals extended lifespan. The trade-off is absolute. Speed and heat equals death. Stillness and cold equals time. So much time you outlive empires. In 2019, during a routine bathymetric survey of the Challenger Deep, instruments recorded something unexpected. Movement below 8,000 meters, below where most fish can exist. The contact lasted 11 minutes, moving at approximately 0.4 meters per second, then vanished. It was filed as unidentified biological contact. No follow-up expedition has relocated it, but the data remains. For decades, scientists believed life could theoretically exist at any ocean depth. Pressure was a challenge, not a ceiling. In 2024, that assumption shattered. The Mariana snailfish holds the record for deepest living fish, found at 8,178 meters in the Mariana Trench. When researchers analyzed its tissue, they found extreme concentrations of a molecule called TMAO, trimethylamine N-oxide. At extreme pressure, proteins, the molecular machines that run all life, begin to collapse. The pressure disrupts the bonds holding their shape. When proteins lose their shape, they lose their function. When they lose their function, the organism dies. TMAO acts as a chemical anchor. It stabilizes proteins under crushing pressure. Surface fish, approximately 50 millimolar TMAO. 1,000-meter fish, approximately 150 millimolar. Mariana snailfish, approximately 300 millimolar, the highest concentration ever measured. Here's the breakthrough. Scientists calculated the maximum pressure TMAO can counteract. The answer: approximately 8,400 meters depth. An entire planet's worth of ocean where fish cannot exist. Below 8,400 meters, even maxed out TMAO cannot save proteins. For fish, the ceiling is absolute. But fish are not the only form of life. Single-celled organisms, bacteria, archaea, have been found at full ocean depth, 10,994 meters. They survive using entirely different strategies. No complex organs, no nervous system, just chemical gradients and membrane pumps. The 8,400-meter limit applies to multicellular animal life. What exists below that line is no longer anything we would recognize as an animal. In 2024, researchers published something disturbing. Amphipods collected from the deepest ocean trenches, depths exceeding 10,000 meters, contain microplastic concentrations higher than surface fish. Trenches act as gravity funnels. Microplastics have near-neutral buoyancy. They don't sink quickly. But over months and years, biofouling, algae and bacteria colonizing the plastic surface, adds weight. Eventually, they sink. And because trenches are topographic low points, currents concentrate debris there. Once plastic reaches the Hadal zone, it cannot leave. No upwelling, no predators migrating upward to redistribute it. The deepest places on Earth are one-way garbage chutes, and the contamination is permanent. We polluted the Hadal zone before we finished mapping it. The abyss was supposed to be untouched. It was supposed to be the last refuge. We've mapped what exists. Now we project what will exist. Ocean warming doesn't just raise temperatures, it removes oxygen. Warm water holds less dissolved gas than cold water. As oceans heat, they release oxygen. The oxygen minimum zone, currently between 600 and 1,200 meters, is expanding. Projections suggest it will rise to 500 meters by 2100. That means lanternfish, and everything else that vertically migrates, will have to travel through even thicker hypoxic zones. The commute becomes more experts. The equation tilts. If migration becomes too costly, lanternfish populations collapse. If lanternfish collapse, everything that eats them collapses. If predation pressure at depth decreases, whale falls decrease. If whale falls decrease, abyssal scavengers starve. The deep ocean survives on scraps from above. If the surface ecosystem fails, the abyss empties. Hydrothermal vents are oases in the abyss. Chemosynthetic bacteria convert toxic hydrogen sulfide into energy. They form the base of a food web that doesn't need sunlight. Each vent field is isolated. Species evolve independently, like islands. These same vent fields sit on top of valuable minerals, deposits worth trillions. Deep-sea mining, currently in exploratory phases, targets these deposits. When you vacuum the sea floor, you don't just remove rocks, you remove habitat. You smother chemosynthetic bacteria. You collapse entire ecosystems. We are planning to destroy ecosystems we haven't finished discovering. We have already scheduled extinctions. We just don't know which species yet. You ascend. The pressure releases incrementally. Your instruments return to normal ranges. At 200 meters, you crossed a threshold. Biology became engineering. At 1,000 meters, metabolism became mathematics. At 4,000 meters, life became patience. At 8,000 meters, life became a dare. You return to a world of air and light and warmth. We are surface creatures, pretending to explore the deep. We can visit. We cannot survive. Below 8,400 meters, fish cannot exist. TMAO fails. Proteins collapse. Cellular machinery stops. And yet, on March 17, 2024, a research submersible recorded sonar contact in the Challenger Deep. Movement detected. Size unknown. Classification unknown. The contact moved too quickly to be geological settling, too slowly to be equipment drift, too deliberately to be current-driven debris, biological. Bacterial mats can move. Gelatinous colonies of single-celled organisms can drift in coordinated patterns, but they don't move deliberately. They don't move at 0.3 meters per second. They don't maintain non-random trajectories for 14 minutes. We know there is movement. We do not know what moves, or whether what is even the right question. The abyss is not empty. It is patient.